Hey there, microchurch leaders. I want to talk to you about salvaging for a few minutes. And at the end of this video, there will be an assignment for you that I would like for you to do in preparation for our microchurch leader gathering on Saturday, February 24th at 10 a.m. We're going to get together, have some coffee and probably some breakfast junk food that's bad for you, and talk more about this subject. So if you can't make it on the 24th, I would love for you to go ahead and do the assignment anyway, and you can email me your response. But if there's any possible way that you can be here on the 24th, I think it's really important that you make it. Our microchurches continue to be at the heartbeat of what we're trying to accomplish as a church, and that is to make disciples who make disciples. And microchurch is a critical pathway to discipleship for our people. So what you're doing is incredibly important, and it's really important that we get better at it as we go. And so this gathering on the 24th and the ones that are going to follow that on a monthly basis are really significant opportunities for us to get better as microchurch leaders, so that the microchurch ministry gets better at making disciples who make disciples. So that being said, let's move on. Try to be here on the 24th if you can. Do you have any items in your home that you have salvaged, that you rescued from a garage sale, or maybe even a trash bin? Maybe it's an old piece of furniture that you were able to restore, or maybe it was a painting that no one else seemed to like but you really love. Or for me, it's books. I've got some books on my shelves that were just throwaways. People threw them away, but I thought they were wonderful, and I discovered them and I put them on my bookshelves. My dad is a scavenger extraordinaire. I mean, he is a top of the podium gold medal dumpster diver. He is one of the best. His attic in his home is about 4,000 square feet, and it is chock full of his discoveries, items that he has salvaged from garage sales and trash bins and estate sales, and just stuff that he got for very cheap, or often for completely free, is just full of in his attic. And the truth is, a lot of it is really junk. It's just trash. He has 2 industrial sized ice makers in his attic. Neither one of them work. They probably never will work, but they were free, so he salvaged them. He has them. He has 4 or 5 of those big, do you remember those big giant projection screen TVs? They'll be like 55 inches, and they'll be humongous, deep and wide, and projection screen TVs. In the 90s, every man wanted one in his man cave, and now the bulbs are all burnt out and they're broken, and they'll never work again. Dad has 4 or 5 of those. At my last count, he had 8 or 9 chainsaws, 2 of which are pretty good and work because he paid for them. The rest of them, he salvaged them, and he's going to fix them someday, right? So a lot of the stuff that he has rescued is really junk, but some of it is actually pretty valuable. He built this house that he lives in now, really with his bare hands, the whole thing. And the materials that he used, a high percentage of them are salvaged materials. For example, he trimmed the whole house. All the baseboards and even the crown molding is all salvaged trim material that he picked up for little or nothing. He tiled his bathroom and his bathrooms and his kitchen with salvaged tile. He salvaged about 100 gallons of a variety of shades of off-white paint. And then he would pour them into 50-gallon drums, trash cans, and mix them up so it was the same color. And he painted the whole interior of his house with salvaged paint. So he really saved thousands of dollars on finishing out his house by using salvaged materials. I think that the old adage, one man's trash is another man's treasure, is going to be the tagline of my dad's biography someday. But it doesn't actually take any special skill to salvage things, even salvage valuable things. All you really have to do is pay attention. You have to be observant and notice the things around you. You notice the potential value, the potential usefulness of things that other people have thought were not valuable and not useful. So I think that we as microchurch leaders need to be salvagers of stories. We need to salvage stories. Here's what I mean. Everyone has stories. We all have experiences and events that have happened in our lives, things that have shaped us and things that we remember, and we have pictures or video, or their stories that we tell when we gather with our family or with old friends. We all have stories. And some of those stories are really meaningful. Some of those stories impacted our lives, and some of those stories, if we were to share them, would impact the lives of other people. Stories can be powerful. Maybe it's not one person's trash is another's treasure. Maybe it's one person's story is another's spark. That maybe there's a story out there that could inspire you to live a bolder faith. I think we're often inspired when we hear how God is at work in the lives of people that are like us, people that we can relate to, normal people. When we see God at work in normal people do amazing things and make a difference in other people's lives, we start to think, well, maybe God can do that in my life too. Maybe God could use me to make a difference to somebody else. I have a friend who recently told me that his family took a deck of cards, a deck of playing cards, and they wrote a Bible verse on each card. And then every week, at the beginning of the week, when they sit down for dinner, they draw a card out of the deck and they study that Bible verse through their dinner times throughout the week. And so by the end of the week, they've talked about this Bible verse 4 or 5 times, however often they can get together for dinner, and they try to memorize the Bible verse by the end of the week. And so over the period of a year, they've gone through 52 of these Bible verses together as a family, a week at a time. I think that's awesome. That's a great story. That story inspires me to be a better father, a father who really is intentional about teaching God's word to my children. So stories can inspire us to make an impact on the people around us. I think stories can give us courage to live a bolder faith. They can encourage us. I think that's what encourage really means. I think we often think of encourage as just complimenting somebody and to say, hey, you're smart and clever and funny. That's encouragement. On a very thin level it is, but the true meaning of the word is to lend courage, as though you're going to fight a battle, and I want to give you courage to face this battle with boldness and bravery. And I think stories can lend that kind of courage to us to live a bolder faith. I have another friend who recently ran into this young man that he had worked with in the past, and he could tell that the young guy was just having a hard time with life, and the young man began to share some of his struggles, and my friend stopped and prayed with him, prayed for him. And then the young man went on to open up a little bit more and share that he had a problem with alcohol. So my friend found an AA group near this young man's house and personally went with him to his first 2 AA meetings to help him get connected and get more comfortable with the group. And then he invited him to an event where he knew this young man was going to hear the gospel and be invited and challenged to follow Jesus. This friend that I'm talking about 3 years ago wasn't a Christian at all. And now here he is sharing his faith and really stepping out of his comfort zone to pray with and really serve and help another young man. I think it's incredible. That story lends me courage. It gives me a reason and a desire to live a bolder faith. Stories can be powerful. One person's story is another's spark. So what kind of stories are you telling in your microchurch? When you guys have some time just to chat, when it's before the lesson or it's after the lesson, and you guys have some time just to talk, what kind of stories do you tell? Do you tell stories that lend courage and inspire? Do you tell care, connect, and challenge stories? Do you tell pray for one stories? Do you tell God at work stories? Because not all stories are created equal. Not all salvaged items are really worth something to everyone, to others. Sometimes the hard work is to teach people which stories really move us forward, which stories really inspire and encourage. Because I think a lot of people don't know. But the kind of stories we tell reveal a lot about us. They reveal what's important to us. So as a church and as a microchurch, the kind of stories you tell will reveal what's really important to you. Do your stories that you share in your microchurch reveal what's really most important, not just to you, but really to God? And as you follow Jesus, to the one that you follow. So there's a really dear lady who tells me inspiring stories all the time. But she came to me with one recently. We had some weather, and there was ice, on every surface. She didn't realize that when she got ready to leave her house, she backed out of her driveway and realized that everything was covered with ice, and she began to get nervous about driving. So she wanted to put her car back in the garage, but she didn't think she could make it back up the driveway and get her car in the garage. But she went for it. She just tried. And the story she's telling me is that God helped her get her car in the garage, that God made her car go up the driveway so she could get it back into the garage. Is that a good story? Well, it's not a bad story. I mean, if God really did help her, that's great. But is that a story that inspires me to live a bold faith, that encourages me to face the battle? No, not really, because what was really at stake in this story? If her car doesn't make it back up the driveway, what's the worst that happens? Well, she has to leave it in the driveway and get out and walk up to her front door to go into her warm house. Not very newsworthy, really. So I'm not trying to make light of her story. I'm glad that she sees God at work in the little things. But we can help people learn and understand what kind of stories really inspire and encourage people, like the ones that I shared with you before. And as a microchurch leader, we need to be salvagers of stories. We need to be the ones who are drawing those stories out, stories that people may have forgotten, or they may think that this only matters to me, it can't possibly matter to someone else. And we need to dust those stories off, and we need to reveal the beauty and the power behind those stories of God at work in people's lives. So this is your assignment. So this is what I want you to come with for our gathering on the 24th. I want you to bring a story. It doesn't have to be your story, but I'd love for it to be a story from your group, from your microchurch. And I need it to fit under one of these categories: care, connect, or challenge, or pray for one, which is kind of any of those three. Care means that it's a story about meeting someone's need in a way that points them closer to Jesus. Connect is a story about connecting someone with Jesus or with another believer. And challenge is a story about challenging someone to take a step of faith closer to Christ. An example of a challenge story, I had a man call me a couple months ago and said, "Hey, I need to get together and talk." So I kind of geared myself up for the worst. A lot of these conversations turn out being about a marriage that's falling apart, and I was braced for that. But this man, his marriage wasn't falling apart. It's really fine. It's really in great shape. But he was brokenhearted about other marriages, people that he knows and loves who are seeing their marriages fall apart. And he just wanted to pray with me. He just said, "Can we just pray about marriages?" And I said, absolutely. So we did. We spent some time just lifting up every married person in our community and in our church. But then I asked him, I said, "What are we going to do about this?" And it kind of set him back a little bit. He said, I don't know that I can do anything about this. I said, "What if you could? What if there's something you could do?" And I began to tell him about this program that I'm aware of and that I've been through, where you can be trained to become a marriage mentor, where you and your spouse can go through some training and be equipped to come alongside another couple and help them through some of the challenges of marriage so that they can have a healthy and thriving marriage. I said, would you be interested in being trained to be a marriage mentor? And he said, you know what? I think I would. I think I would love that. So he and I are in conversation about bringing this marriage mentor training to Cicero Christian Church so that lots of people can get involved in this and become equipped to help other people have healthy, thriving marriages. So in that moment, if I had not taken that step to challenge him and say, I think that you can do more. I'm glad that you're praying, but I think you can take another step. I don't think he would have done anything on his own. So we have those opportunities. We need to share those stories because they inspire and they lend courage. So come on the 24th at 10 a.m. to the multi-purpose room. I'll have coffee and snacks waiting for you, and be prepared to share the story that you have salvaged either from your own life or from the conversations in your microchurch. I'm excited to meet with you guys. I believe that when we really begin to catch on to this idea that we need to be on the lookout, we need to be aware that there are people all around us with stories that have incredible value and usefulness for the kingdom of God. And when we elevate and we share those stories, it inspires and encourages people to live a bold faith. I think this can really make an impact on a lot of people. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about it. Do your assignment and be prepared to discuss this on the 24th. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to give me a call. I'd love to talk to you. Thanks. Bye.